Mental Health Monday.
Mental Health Monday. So I have this memory that kind of stays with me and has traveled with me of me going to Atlanta to visit some cousins, and there were some younger cousins my age or a little bit older than me that were that I was hanging with in a basement, and it was getting towards the end of the night, and I remember pretending to be asleep. And I remember as I was pretending to be asleep, my cousins were taking turns kissing me. And then I remember another image I remember is maybe around the next day coming upstairs and being told, don't let nobody do that to you. And now I've never talked to my parents about this to validate this. I've never talked to my cousins to validate this, but for some reason that is an image that has traveled with me throughout my teen years. I mean, I remembered it when I was a teenager. I remember talking about it, and I had a moment in high school where I would just be talking about like stuff. And I would like create these stories like, oh, I saw my cousins that did this to me. Like when I was, and I hadn't seen them since I was like probably like 6 or 7. But I would just start creating these stories because I feel like that was my way of trying to process what I thought I was remembering that I didn't understand. So those were like the earlier things that I felt were, I kind of was like entrapped with, that kind of formulated into this void that you're talking about, that ultimately, you know, grew and expanded and became something kind of more intense.
When it comes to memories like that, do you ever wonder what would happen if you had the conversation or what that would change?
Yeah, you know, I've gotten at a point now where I've started having conversations with my relatives. I had a conversation with my grandmother recently about, you know, my grandfather. My grandfather has the history, the story of my grandfather is very kind of murky, and it's one of those things where it's like people have like sensitive feelings about him, and I finally got to start asking a little bit more about what is that about. So just certain things that I've, you know, trends in our family, you know, that have kind of followed around, that I've finally started to feel more comfortable opening those doors. And I think it has been healing in a way, because it is giving me a perspective that allows me to make, you know, to form a more informed opinion about my experiences that kind of relieve me of some of the, if I have guilt or something like that, relieve me of some of that, because I'm able to really fully understand exactly what it is and treat it that way, and like instead of trying to deal with something that I'm not sure about, I can deal with something that I know is real, and really kind of like attack it in the right way, I guess, you know?
All right, so now that you've had the steps, you've done the memory, you've looked at things, because we realize sometimes the past does affect who we are. Have you ever had sit downs with family members or those close to you to be like, hey, if you ever see me spiraling or things are hitting the fan, here's like a list of words or sentence structures you could use to approach me, because like that lets me know if you're talking to me like this, maybe I am a little bit over the edge and I need to reel it in or figure things out.
No, I actually haven't, but I'm glad that you said that, because that does, I think one of my issues with communicating has been that I've always had a fear that I'm not communicating correctly.
Yeah.
And so when I communicate, I don't get the response that I'm like I'm hoping to get. And which makes me feel like, okay, maybe there's something about the way that I'm communicating this that is, not working. So me being an extreme person, I go back to the furthest extreme of not communicating at all. And I think that a large part of our problem as a society is that we don't know that there are ways that we could communicate things that are still true and honest. We can say how we really feel